The year 1972 dawned with hope and uncertainty. The Cold War divided the world, but the Munich Olympics promised unity. Germany, eager to showcase its recovery, hosted the event. The Munich massacre shattered this festive atmosphere. Black September's attack on Israeli athletes marked a new era of terror. The world realized no one was safe from this new threat. Black September emerged from the expulsion of Palestinian militants from Jordan. Their goal, avenge the Palestinian people and pressure Israel. The Munich massacre was their boldest move. On September 5, 1972, they took 11 Israeli athletes hostage. Despite negotiations, the siege ended in tragedy. The group vowed to continue their campaign of violence. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 proved their threats were real. On October 29, 1972, Lufthansa Flight 615 took off. The Boeing 747, a symbol of modern aviation, seemed routine. Passengers were unaware of the nightmare ahead. The first leg to Beirut was uneventful. 4 Black September members boarded with a deadly plan. As the plane climbed, they brandished weapons. The terrifying announcement, Lufthansa Flight 615 was hijacked. The Munich massacre cast a long shadow over the hijacking. The Olympics, meant for peace, became a stage for terror. The world questioned how such violence could occur. The attack exposed the vulnerability to new terrorism. Security heightened, but fear lingered. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 showed the nightmare wasn't over. Black September's motivations were rooted in vengeance. Formed after the 1970 expulsion from Jordan, they sought recognition. Their name referenced the bloody events of September 1970. They believed violence was necessary for attention. Their tactics alienated many, even within the Palestinian movement. The Munich massacre drew widespread condemnation. The hijacking unfolded in a climate of fear. The Munich massacre was a national trauma for Israel. Prime Minister Golda Meir vowed revenge. Operation Wrath of God targeted those responsible. The hijacking echoed Munich's demands. The world watched as fear and retaliation played out. The flight from Damascus to Beirut was uneventful. Passengers settled into routine air travel. As the plane reached cruising altitude, peace was shattered. 4 Black September members stormed the aisles. Panic gripped the cabin as the hijackers took control. The flight became a flying prison, its fate uncertain. The hijackers issued their chilling demands. They demanded the release of 3 Black September members. The hijackers' message sent shockwaves through Germany. The hijacking was a calculated act of political terrorism. Negotiators faced a high-stakes game of diplomacy. The lives of over 100 people hung in the balance. Inside the hijacked jet, time warped. Fear manifested in trembling hands and whispered prayers. The hijackers paced the aisles, weapons in hand. Small acts of kindness offered glimmers of humanity. The physical and emotional toll weighed heavily. Hope flickered as passengers clung to survival. The hijackers revealed a bomb on board. The bomb threat added a new dimension of terror. The hijackers detailed the bomb's potency. They painted a vivid picture of potential carnage. The bomb was a deadly guarantee, not a bargaining chip. The message, meet our demands or face death. A chilling calculation lives on the line. News of the bomb threat reached the crisis negotiation team in Germany. What began as a hostage situation morphed into a potential mass casualty event. Refuse to negotiate and risk the lives of over 100 innocent people. Capitulate to the demands of terrorists and set a dangerous precedent. The pressure mounted with each passing moment. The world watched, holding its breath. Ticking clock, the pressure mounts. As the hours dragged on, the atmosphere aboard the hijacked plane grew thick with a mixture of fear, boredom, and a desperate yearning for resolution. The initial shock had given way to a numbing routine, punctuated by the hijackers' sporadic pronouncements and the ever-present knowledge that a bomb lurked somewhere within the confines of the aircraft. The passengers, their movements restricted, tried to find ways to cope with the unbearable tension. Some prayed quietly, seeking solace in their faith. Others retreated into themselves, their faces drawn and pale, lost in their own private nightmares. A few attempted to engage in hushed conversations, seeking distraction in shared stories and anxieties. The hijackers, their faces hidden behind scarves and sunglasses, remained vigilant, their weapons a constant reminder of their absolute control. They paced the aisles, their eyes scanning for any sign of defiance, their demeanor a volatile mix of boredom and fanaticism. Every creak of the aircraft's fuselage, every change in engine pitch, sent a jolt of fear through the cabin. Time, no longer a reliable measure, seemed to both crawl and accelerate, stretching out the agonizing wait while simultaneously reminding everyone of the bomb's ticking clock. A nation held hostage, Germany's impossible choice. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 presented West Germany with a horrifying dilemma. The demands of the hijackers echoed the tragedy of Munich. Releasing the imprisoned Black September members would be a bitter pill to swallow. It would be seen as a capitulation to terrorism. The families of the slain athletes pleaded with the government to stand firm. Yet the alternative carried its own horrifying calculus. The lives of over 100 innocent passengers and crew hung in the balance. The specter of the Munich massacre loomed large over Germany's deliberations. The botched rescue attempt, the tragic loss of life, the global condemnation, all served as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences. The Munich debacle had exposed vulnerabilities in Germany's security apparatus. The government faced immense pressure to find a solution. However, the memory of Munich cut both ways. Some argued that acceding to the hijackers' demands would be tantamount to admitting defeat. It would set a dangerous precedent, emboldening other extremist groups. The dilemma was agonizing, a moral and political tightrope walk with no easy answers. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 captivated the world's attention, laying bare the challenges of international terrorism. News spread like wildfire, dominating headlines and airwaves. Governments and citizens anxiously awaited updates. International pressure mounted on West Germany to find a resolution. Some urged negotiation, others opposed concessions. The United Nations worked tirelessly to mediate. The world held its breath, hoping for a peaceful resolution. As Lufthansa Flight 615 circled over European cities, its fuel dwindling, a tense drama unfolded. Negotiators in Bonn, Germany, worked to communicate with the hijackers. Their calm voices faced an impossible task. Balancing demands and safety, navigating political sensitivities, every word carried the weight of lives. The hijackers were unpredictable, issuing threats and demands. Time slipped away as negotiators grew fatigued. They needed a breakthrough before desperation took over. Bridging the divide demands and counter-demands. Negotiations through a crackling radio link were a delicate dance of words and silences, threats and reassurances. Skilled negotiators employed every tactic to de-escalate the situation and buy time. The hijackers demanded the release of 3 imprisoned Black September members. They also demanded safe passage and a hefty ransom. Their tone left no doubt they were prepared to carry out their threats. Negotiators sought to introduce reason and compromise, emphasizing passenger safety. They offered concessions to build trust and keep communication open. The hijackers grew increasingly impatient and unpredictable. A race against time, hope, and despair in the balance. As the hours stretched into an agonizing night, the world watched and waited, hoping against hope for a peaceful resolution to the hijacking crisis. News reports, broadcast around the clock, provided a minute-by-minute account of the unfolding drama, fueling a global wave of anxiety and speculation. On board the hijacked plane, the atmosphere remained tense, a mixture of fear, boredom, and a desperate longing for resolution. The passengers, their movements restricted, their every word and action scrutinized, struggled to maintain a sense of normalcy amidst the extraordinary circumstances. The hijackers, their patience wearing thin, issued a series of ultimatums. threatening to start executing hostages if their demands were not met. The negotiators, their voices betraying the strain of the ordeal, pleaded for calm, urging the hijackers to consider the human cost of their actions. Hope, though flickering, refused to be extinguished entirely. The negotiators, drawing on their training and experience, clung to the belief that even in the darkest of situations, a glimmer of humanity could prevail. They continued to talk, to listen, to search for a way out of the impasse, their every word a lifeline in a desperate race against time. A calculated risk, the decision to negotiate. Inside a dimly lit room in Bonn, Chancellor Willy Brandt faced an impossible choice. Every instinct rebelled against negotiating with terrorists. It felt like a betrayal of the innocent lives lost in Munich. The world watched, waiting for a decision. Some argued against compromise, fearing it would embolden terrorists. Others urged a pragmatic approach to save hostages. In the end, the preservation of human life tipped the scales. Germany would negotiate. Operation Feuerzauber, a carefully orchestrated exchange. A sense of grim determination descended upon the room. The operation, codenamed Feuerzauber, was a meticulously choreographed ballet of logistics, security, and diplomacy. The plan was as audacious as it was risky. Under the cover of darkness, the 3 imprisoned Black September members would be flown from Germany to Zagreb. Every detail was meticulously planned and rehearsed. The world held its breath as the plan was set in motion. Section 3. Freedom's embrace, the hostages' release. The sight of the Lufthansa jet, its wings illuminated by the runway lights, sent a collective sigh of relief through the tense crowd gathered at Zagreb airport. As the plane taxied slowly towards the designated area, a hush fell over the assembled crowd, a palpable mixture of hope and trepidation hanging in the air. The negotiators, their faces etched with fatigue and the strain of the ordeal, watched intently as the plane came to a stop, their hearts pounding in their chests. The moment of truth had arrived, the culmination of hours of agonizing negotiations and meticulous planning. The door of the plane opened slowly, revealing the silhouette of a hijacker, his face obscured by a scarf, his hand gripping a weapon. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, a stark reminder of the volatility of the situation, the ever-present potential for violence to erupt. Then, one by one, the hostages began to emerge, their faces pale and drawn, but etched with an unmistakable sense of relief. Some stumbled, others wept openly, overcome by the emotion of the moment. They had survived a harrowing ordeal, their lives hanging precariously in the balance for what had seemed like an eternity. Now, finally, they were free. Germany grapples with the fallout. The successful resolution of the Lufthansa Flight 615 hijacking brought relief to West Germany. The hostages were safe, but unease lingered. Public opinion was divided. Some praised the government's decision to negotiate. They argued a raid was unthinkable. Others condemned it as capitulation to terrorism. Chancellor Willy Brandt defended his actions, aiming to protect lives. Yet, unease remained, with terrorism casting a long shadow. A world divided on negotiating with terrorists. The Lufthansa Flight 615 hijacking ignited a global debate about negotiating with terrorists. It pitted the need to protect lives against the fear of emboldening violence. Israel condemned Germany's decision to release Black September members. Prime Minister Golda Meir warned that surrendering to terror invites more bloodshed. Other nations feared the precedent set by Germany's actions. The hijacking forced the world to confront the complex threat of terrorism. The ghost of Lufthansa. Flight 615. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 casts a long shadow, a reminder of a turbulent era. Etched in aviation history, it highlights the vulnerability of civilian air travel. Questions lingered long after the hostages were safely home. What motivated the hijackers beyond the release of their comrades? Was the bomb threat genuine or a desperate bluff? Did Germany's decision to negotiate set a dangerous precedent? The legacy of Lufthansa Flight 615 is a complex one, a mix of relief and unease. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 after the Munich massacre shocked aviation. Boarding an airplane, once a symbol of freedom, became a high-altitude hostage situation. The incident exposed vulnerabilities in airport security protocols. The world demanded action, a reassessment of aviation security. Governments implemented new security measures. Metal detectors became ubiquitous at airports. Baggage screening procedures were tightened. The hijacking marked a turning point in aviation security. The days of minimal scrutiny were over. Security became an essential component of air travel. The legacy of Lufthansa Flight 615 and the wave of hijackings in the 1970s extended far beyond enhanced security measures. It left an indelible mark on air travelers, instilling a sense of vulnerability and anxiety that resonates today. The romantic notion of air travel became intertwined with a newfound awareness of potential danger. The image of hijackers storming the cockpit became a recurring nightmare, a reminder of life's fragility. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 serves as a potent reminder of the enduring power of fear and its impact on travel. The hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 615 stands as a chilling reminder of a turbulent era in aviation history. It was a time when the skies seemed far less friendly, overshadowed by the fear of terrorism. The incident forced a fundamental reassessment of aviation security. The legacy of Lufthansa Flight 615 can be seen in the countless security measures now commonplace at airports. The air travel experience has been irrevocably transformed. Reflecting on Lufthansa Flight 615, we remember the fear and uncertainty of that era, but also the courage and compassion that shone through. Passengers and crew, held hostage, endured unimaginable stress yet found strength in each other, their shared humanity a beacon of hope. Negotiators, working tirelessly, demonstrated remarkable skill and composure, seeking a peaceful resolution that affirmed the value of human life. The hijacking serves as a reminder that the fight against terrorism is ongoing, demanding our unwavering attention and commitment. Through dialogue and understanding, we can build a more peaceful world.